Moving on to our next speaker. So, something that's very divisive is food. Everyone has an opinion on food, right? I'm a big fan of medium rare steaks. I know a lot of people like well done steaks. You're all weird if you like well done steaks. But here to talk about some emotional eating, which is something I don't know very much about, is Mr. Sam Gibson. Please welcome the stage, Sam Gibson.
Hello everyone. Well, how do I follow those 2 and 3 acts before me? They were incredible. Tracy touched me and you must admit that. But I'm gonna try and deliver a different message right now. So cards on the table time, hands up. Who here has gained weight? Who here has lost weight and then gained it all back? Hands up. Me too. Me too, many times before. And the truth is, this is a study done by Marshall S. Runge, questionable name. That 90% of people who've lost weight worldwide regain just about all of it back in 12 months or less. Isn't that crazy? Now, when I saw that statistic, it kind of made me feel like a little bit of a fraud, because my entire identity was about helping people lose weight, helping people get in shape, helping people eat better, helping people improve their confidence. But I was also a part of that 90%, because for years, without really telling anyone, without even realizing maybe I was in denial, I was suffering with an eating disorder that I wasn't really telling people about. I was losing weight, getting it all back, getting in tremendous shape, getting it all back. I was binging, I was purging, I was restricting, you name it, my entire life was controlled by food. So, knowing that 90% of people who lose weight regain it all back, that was hard for me to accept, because I was a personal trainer at the time. My entire identity was helping people. But if 90% of people regain all of the weight that they lose back, then what am I really doing? So the last few years has been an accumulation of signing up for different mentors, doing a lot of research, working on my own mindset to figure out what are the real reasons that people regain all of the weight back, or who might even suffer with disordered eating like myself. So my name is Sam Gibson. I'm an emotional eating coach, and this is why your eating habits are all over the place. So going back to 2018, that's me there, looking like I've just been tangled. Fake tan, short shorts, a little bit of oil, you name it, that was me. And the truth is, behind this photo, you might be looking at it thinking, wow, you're in incredible shape, Sam. Go here, you must have been so happy. Well, that was far from the truth. I was far from happy there. Back then I was lost. I was consumed by how I looked. I was consumed by the validation and attention I got from people. What I looked like, what I ate, what I didn't eat. So although I looked like that, inside I was a mess. I was a mess. And the truth is, if you know what I had to do to get in that kind of shape, you'd realize it wasn't worth it, like I did. To get in that kind of shape, I had to restrict myself for about 6 weeks. Yeah, 0 carbohydrates, fat diets, hours of cardio, and behind that, sort of a smile, if you can call it that, I was broken inside. I was suffering with panic attacks every single night. At the age of 24 years old, I couldn't sleep alone if my girlfriend wasn't there. And if my girlfriend was there, or if she wasn't there, then I knew I was going to have a panic attack. And for me, I linked my anxiety, the panic attacks. I knew if I went downstairs and binge ate 24 bagels and jam, then I'd be able to get to sleep and I wouldn't have to deal with the negative thoughts going on in my mind. So 2 weeks after that photo shoot, to get in the best shape of my life, I'd actually done a bodybuilding show the day before as well. I'm 3rd place, so I didn't even win. 2 weeks later, and 30 pounds later, there's me back in that yo-yo diet cycle, depressed, anxious, eating and drinking every single day. And that photo was took in Greece, and there's a reason I went on that holiday 2 weeks after that photo shoot, because I wanted to escape the life that I had. I went on that holiday and paid for it with money that I didn't have. I was in debt. I used my credit card to book a 2-star holiday in Greece, and it was terrible, by the way. My girlfriend's at the back, she'll tell you all about it. It was awful, but I went on that holiday because I just couldn't deal with the thoughts, the anxiety, the panic attack that I had back home. Because I put my entire life, my entire identity on being the guy who looks good, being the guy who's in shape, being the guy who people come to get in shape. But I was suffering with all that from behind the scenes, so you can imagine how much of a fraud I felt. So I went on that holiday, and to be honest, I was dreading the 7th day. Because the 7th day meant coming back home to the life that I'd wanted to escape from. And at that point, to be honest, I'm just going to be honest with you right now, like many people have who've been on the stage tonight, I was feeling suicidal. I didn't want to be there anymore. The panic attacks that I was having were so terrifying, I didn't understand where they were coming from. And what do men do, as Jordan talked about before? They bottle it up, they don't talk, and they develop coping mechanisms, which for me was drink, it was food, and whatever else I could get my hand on. So 2 weeks later, after that photo shoot, I was 30 pounds up in weight. But it wasn't even 2 weeks later, it was actually 5 days after I was 30 pounds up. Now, I don't know if you've ever intentionally tried to gain weight before. Well, that's pretty fucking impressive, yeah? 30 pounds in 5 days, pretty impressive. You have to go all in on the scram in order to do that, right? And I remember after that show, after that photo shoot, I put my happiness on a pedestal. I'm going to win this show, I'm going to get this photo shoot, I'm going to post a load of photos on Instagram, everyone's going to love us, it's going to change my life. But really I was just empty and numb. So the day after that photo shoot happened, I remember I'd been saving these 10 boxes of Pop-Tarts, right? I had a thing for Pop-Tarts at the time, don't ask me why. Probably because I wasn't eating any carbohydrates for months on end, but I'll get into that later. So I had these 10 boxes of Pop-Tarts that my girlfriend had to keep for us because I couldn't trust myself around them. And I remember after that photo shoot was done, I felt so depressed because it wasn't making us happy. Looking like that didn't make us happy when I had to go through what I went through to look like that. So I ate all of these Pop-Tarts in one day. I actually bought a toaster from Argos that I could plug into my room in the extension below my bed, so I didn't even have to leave the room. And I spent the entire day watching Netflix, feeling depressed, anxious, feeling like I didn't want to go outside, just sitting there eating these Pop-Tarts one after another. 50 Pop-Tarts in one day, true story. It's no wonder why I gained that 30 pounds in 5 days, right? So there's a bit of a contrast between those two photos. There's only 2 weeks between those photos. But that's where I was at the time with my eating habits. So, emotional eating is what I would consider that I was struggling with. Now, emotional eating is a bit of a blanket term. This could be comfort eating, it could be binge eating, it could be yo-yo dieting, it could be a diagnosed eating disorder maybe. You know, but when I asked that question at the start, put your hands up if you've ever lost weight and gained it all back, a lot of you guys put your hands up. So I would consider, if you've ever done that, you're somewhat of an emotional eater, yeah? We often eat when we are down, bored, anxious, maybe we're depressed like what I was. You're using food to numb yourself, right? But at the time I couldn't realise it, but looking back now in hindsight, it's quite clear to me that the food wasn't the issue. I thought I was addicted to foods, addicted to Pop-Tarts. I thought I had a problem with my diet, with my mindset around food. But in reality, looking back now, it's clear to me that emotional eating or overeating, binge eating, stress eating, that's just the symptom. It's not the entire problem. So this is a quote from one of my favourite authors, Johann Hari. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to his book, Lost Connections. It's an incredible book, and if I met this dude, I'd probably break down and cry because it changed my life. And there's a quote from his book which I'm going to reference today. What if depression is in fact a form of grief for our own lives not being as they should? And when I link it back to where I was at that time, I had all of these goals and these dreams, these expectations about being this up-and-coming PT, helping people change their life, but I just couldn't get my own eating habits together. I felt like a complete fraud, like I've said before. And when your expectations for your life are up here, but reality's down there, the void between your expectations and reality is where depression lives. And when we continue to not have our expectations met, we feel depressed. And if we study the word depression, it actually means disconnection. So what was I disconnected from at that point in my life? Well, I was trying to make it as a personal trainer. I was trying to do the photo shoot to make posts on Instagram and say, look at me, how good I look, please hire me. But it wasn't really working out right. I was trying to educate people and help people, but I wasn't putting myself out there. I wasn't doing anything. I had all these goals and dreams about how I could help people. Got this big creative brain and I want to use it, but I wasn't doing anything with it. I was scared. And the truth is, I wasn't treating people very nice in my life at that time. My girlfriend, my mum and dad. I cut my friends out because I called them toxic, but really it was me who was toxic. I was without purpose, I was isolated, I was lonely, I was focusing on the wrong things, I was blaming other people for how I felt. That sounds like the definition of disconnected to me. So I'm going to say that again before I move on. What if depression is in fact a form of grief for our own lives not being as they should? So again, binge eating, or overeating, stress eating, yo-yo diet, or comfort eating, whatever you want to call it, it's all pretty much the same thing. Maybe that's a symptom for not having any meaning or purpose in your life. Now I want you to think back to the people who put their hands up and said, yeah, I've lost weight before and I've gained it all back. What was going on in your life in that time for you to possibly use food for comfort? Were you without purpose like what I was back then? Did you not have anything exciting going on in your life? Did you have no hobbies, no interests? Were you not moving towards anything exciting for your future? Or were you just living in this day-to-day monotonous cycle of work, home, Netflix, work, home, Netflix, get pissed on the weekend like what I was doing? Were you just stuck on this hamster wheel of life and not really going anywhere? And maybe that's why you couldn't stick to your diet. Maybe that's why your eating was all over the place. Maybe the fact that your eating habits were the way they were and the way mine was the way they were is because I had no purpose. I was focusing on the wrong things. I wasn't essentially doing anything with my life that was meaningful. So because I was disconnected and my life was without meaning, I developed a coping mechanism. And food is pretty much the easiest one to connect to, right? It's right there. You can go on your phone in 10 minutes, just eat. You can go to the corner shop. Sweets, chocolate, pop. We can literally get at the touch of a button anything we want delivered to our house within 10 minutes now. It's so easy to develop a bit of an emotional attachment to food, right? But maybe it's not the food that's the problem. Maybe it's just the fact that we are disconnected in our life. We are disconnected from meaningful relationships. We're disconnected from a meaningful job. We're disconnected from pleasurable hobbies and activities. We're just going through this hamster wheel of life, not really knowing what we're doing. So it's just too easy to use food for comfort. Rapport study. I'm excited to talk about this. I don't know if you've ever heard of this study before. So, rapport study is a study done by Bruce Alexander. I believe it's from the 1970s. So, there was some theories on addiction at that time in the early 1970s, and it always kind of took this right-wing approach of it's the substances, it takes over your brain, there's nothing you can do, you've got to stay away from these substances, right? But Bruce Alexander looked at previous studies done on addiction that had been done on rats. And the only data they had was the studies that they did when they had rats isolated in cages by themselves. So Bruce Alexander looked at these studies where it showed that the way the brain works, and obviously we do a lot of studies on rats to determine the potential for human because we've got very similar brains and brain chemistry, that sort of stuff. So Bruce Alexander looked at the theories on addiction and that it was always the substances that's the problem. And you'll be able to see how this links into food very soon. So these studies were done on rats that was essentially put in a cage on their own. They had 2 bottles of water. One was laced with cocaine, again a highly addictive substance, right? And one was regular water. And these studies in the early 1970s concluded that within a matter of days, every single rat either overdosed or died because of the cocaine-laced water, because of the availability for it. So this theory came around that it's the substances that are addictive. It's the cocaine, it's the alcohol, it's the food, it's the thing that we need to worry about. But Bruce Alexander looked at these studies and he said, hang on a second. They're in cages, they're on their own, they're isolated, look at their environments. Maybe we should replicate this study, but let's put them together. So he created the rapport study. This was like essentially heaven for rats, right? There was loads of rats there. They were all together. They were in a big cage. They could have sex. They could eat food. They could play with each other. They had toys. They had you name it. It was heaven for rats. They had the same two variables in that study: normal water and cocaine-laced water. They wanted to test the theory on the previous studies that were done on addiction. And you know what they found in Bruce Alexander's rat park studies? They found that none of the rats actually touched the cocaine-laced water, even though it was just as available as before. So his theory kind of proved that it's not the thing, it's not the cocaine, it's not the food, it's not the alcohol. That's the problem. Whatever coping mechanisms we turn to when we are disconnected from our life, it's not the things that's the problem, it's the environment. If we are without purpose, if we are without connection to other people, if we are without things to do, things to focus on, pleasurable experiences, then we are disconnected. And when we are disconnected, our brain will look to connect to anything it can get its hands on. So can you see now the link between environment, people's lives, how disconnected they are, and eating habits? So binge eaters, or anyone who seemingly can't lose weight for that matter, they're not broken. I wasn't broken. And if you are struggling with your eating habits now, I can promise you, you're not broken either. You think you are sometimes. You think you are, but you're not. Maybe you just haven't learned how to cope without using food to compensate for emotional voids. Maybe the emotional void is right in between your current reality and the expectations about how you thought your life could be. And in that void, you are disconnected. And you just haven't linked them together yet. So binge eaters are not broken. Yo-yo dieters are not broken. People who can't lose weight are not broken. I'm just going to take a punt right now. Take a guess. There's probably some people here who, unfortunately, they've given up on their eating habits at one point in their life. Maybe you've given up right now. Maybe you've accepted, hey, I'll always be overweight. I'll never look like the way I want. I'll never reach those goals and dreams that I've set myself. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. Like what I was doing when I was stuck in this disordered eating cycle, having panic attacks and feeling depressed and suicidal, all because of how I looked and how I ate. But really it was just because I never learned how to fill my emotional voids yet. Because I didn't even realize that it was my environment, lack of purpose, and lack of meaning to my life that was causing the addictions, the dependencies. So I can promise you right now, you don't need to fix your diet. Because underneath the surface, your diet is just a reflection of your life. Your diet, your eating habits, and therefore weight loss and things like that, will correct itself when you fix your life. Now what I mean by fix your life is get connected again. Get connected to a meaningful purpose. Get connected to meaningful people. Find your tribe, just like Jordan said in his talk. It's all about connecting to like-minded people, feeling safe, feeling comfortable. When you have meaning to your life, when you have purpose, your brain doesn't respond to addiction the same way as you think it does. It doesn't need to, because you're connected. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. So if you're struggling with your eating habits right now, I can promise you, you don't need to fix your diet. You just need to look at what the possible disconnections are in your life. So I want to leave you with this. If you are an emotional eater, you're classing yourself as an emotional eater, a yo-yo dieter, maybe you've even had some diagnosis in the past for an actual eating disorder. Now I didn't, because like all men do, you bottle it up, you pretend it's not there, bury your head in the sand, don't want to see him weak. We've got these big egos, right, us men, haven't we? It's what we do. But if I was going down the medical route then, I would have been diagnosed with an eating disorder, because it was control of my life. My entire life looked like getting in amazing shape and restrict myself. As soon as the diet was over, binge compulsively, stick my fingers down my throat, sick up the binges from the previous night before, block it out of my mind, pretend it didn't happen, do hours of cardio, 3-4 hours of cardio the next day, do it all over again the next night. No wonder I was feeling panic attacks, right? No wonder I was depressed. No wonder I didn't want to come back off that holiday in Greece and come back to that life that I had. So the only way out of that, the only way that worked for me, And the only way that will work for anyone here who thinks that they have a problem with food, whether that be you just overeat, you yo-yo diet, you binge eat, or you've got a diagnosed eating disorder. You'll only stop doing those things when you feel like you have a life you don't need to escape from anymore. And if we look at Johann Hari's quote again, we're going to get about hope. What if depression, disconnection, is in fact a form of grief for our lives not being as they should? So how do you think your life should be right now? What are your expectations, your goals, your dreams for how you want your life to be? And are you doing enough to get your reality to match your expectations? Because the longer you live your life inside of this void between reality and how you think your life could or should be, the more depressed, disconnected you're going to feel. So all those people who put their hands up at the start and said, yeah, I've lost weight before, I've gained it all back. I presume you still want to lose weight again, right? Yeah? You want to be healthy, you want to be fit, you want to be stronger, you want to be a bit more sexy. Who doesn't? It's a great goal to have. But I want to get you to shift your perspective. This was my entire intention from today's talk, is to get you to shift your perspective from what you're actually focusing on when you think you can't lose weight, when you think your eating habits are all over the place. It's because right now, without realizing, just like I didn't, you've unknowingly been living inside the void between your expectations and your reality. And until you start working on reconnecting with a meaningful purpose, reconnecting with meaningful hobbies, reconnecting with meaningful people, you're not going to be able to get the results that you want when it comes to your eating habits. So my advice right now is be very honest with yourself. Take a cold, long, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I doing enough to connect with the life that I really want? And if you're not, that will explain why your eating habits are currently the way they are. My name is Sam Gibson, and that is why your eating habits are all over the place.